Hey guys, before we get into the video, again, I feel like we've mentioned it a couple of times, but I really did want to reinforce, me personally, so grateful for the support on the channel, getting us up to 1,000 subscribers. It really is quite a milestone for me and James. Again, we say it ourselves, we're so amateur at this, it's crazy. You can see we're doing share screen on a Zoom call on an Excel spreadsheet about a Premier League predictions video. This is way out of our comfort zone in terms of what we're kind of capable of doing. So for you guys to, for it to resonate with you, or for you to find it somewhat entertaining, we're really grateful. And we won't forget the first 1,000 people who got us to this milestone, hopefully with eyes to the next one. Again, if you're not subscribed and you're watching this, we'd love your support. Scroll down, hit that subscribe button. We'll do us a massive favor. Drop a like on the video, comments, all that good algorithm stuff. Anyway, I've wasted enough of your time. On to the video. Hello and welcome to Box Football. My name is Jack Farr. Unfortunately, you do just have me solo here to take you through the Premier League Gameweek 25 predictions on behalf of myself and, unfortunately, the not present James Macanjola today. Gameweek 24 is in the books. We are going to be taking you through full Gameweek 25, some double game weeks in there as well, so a lot more games to potentially get to. Just explaining James's absence very quickly. Guys, when you have full-time jobs and you have other hobbies and all sorts of other stuff going on, sometimes it can be very difficult to get your timing right, to be able to do these kind of videos, edit these kind of videos, put it out, do thumbnails and all sorts of other stuff. And again, James and I are still very amateur at this. So we're trying our best here, but occasionally it will just be me or it will just be James. So my apologies for that. I hope you can suffer through the next 20 minutes or so with just me here. First of all, let's take a little look back at how we did in Game Week 24. As you can see by the totals at the bottom there, I was able to sneak back 1 point into James's, I think from memory, quite small lead. So very pleased with that. Very happy with my Man City calling the correct result on that one there. And generally speaking, let's just have a look back at the game week and see how things went. I've kind of highlighted it there in the little blue cell there on this Excel spreadsheet. West Ham Arsenal, the result, an Arsenal victory, I don't think was the most shocking thing in the world, but to score 6 goals and past the David Moyes team, where the David Moyes team have been playing at points really well this season at home, was a huge victory for Arsenal. And I think, again, people can correct me where I'm wrong here, their biggest ever away victory since the Premier League started in 1992. So huge scalp, I guess, or record for Arsenal there in that game. Chelsea being able to kind of come back late and beat Crystal Palace is really big for them. Trying to think of some other games that maybe caught us off guard. To be honest with you, Luton Town, Sheffield United, I think Sheffield United showed that they've still got a little bit of teeth left. And, if they can snag a couple of little wins together, little, victories by 1 goal margin, maybe they're not definitely going to get relegated like everybody thinks. And games against like-minded teams, let's say in Luton Town, are the big ones that they're going to need to win for any chance of survival. Apart from that, generally speaking, somewhat of an unremarkable game week, I think we would say. But yeah, me with 7 points, James with 6, breaking into that slight lead very quickly. So we're going to scroll all the way up to the top here just to see the totals. And as you can see, I've halved the gap. We're only down now to a 1 point behind for James. It's actually been really fun this year, to be fair. I've been leading for, I think, large parts of the season. James was able to claw it back and do his thing as well. And, now James is ahead, but again, only by a small amount. So hopefully this is going to be neck and neck coming into the end of the season here. So guys, without any further ado, let's get cracking. First game of the week. This is a Saturday lunchtime fixture, Brentford versus Liverpool. Now, unfortunately, James isn't here because he would need to explain this one in a major way. Brentford versus Liverpool. I've gone for 3-1. As far as I'm concerned, this is kind of a plain and simple, relatively easy result. I'm sure James might be pointing to the fact that we don't know where Mo Salah's at. Trent Alexander-Arnold is going to be out. Is Andy Robertson back? But then not just back, but back to his best in the way that he's capable of playing. Liverpool, there's a bit of fixture congestion as well. So are they going to fully commit with the Carabao Cup and then also, Champions League and all sorts of that kind of stuff coming up as well? So I understand maybe some potential hesitation. Brentford are definitely good at home, but as far as I'm concerned, if Mo Salah doesn't play, if Trent doesn't play, if these kind of guys don't play, there's still definitely more than enough about this Liverpool team with people causing chaos like Darwin Nunez, people who are clinical, crazy finishers at the moment like Diogo Jota, Luis Diaz, who has that kind of special X factor as well. Maybe we see some more from somebody like a Cody Gakpo getting a few more minutes as well. And again, Liverpool, if we've seen anything from their academy with Trent being out, I think no matter who comes in can potentially deliver some incredible performances. So as far as I'm concerned, I feel pretty comfortable, generally speaking, with Liverpool getting this one 3-1. I think Brentford will have a threat. Ivan Toney, of course, being back is huge. But guys, we have to remember, there's a Brentford team that's not played particularly well. Their best player of the season, Brian Mbeumo, was out for the season with an injury as well. That's a huge, huge loss for them. The only thing I think potentially is happening here is James thinks Liverpool going to be a little worse off with some of the players missing. Brentford at home, maybe trying to turn things around. But again, it's a brave man to pick a 2-2 draw for Brentford versus Liverpool. And again, James will have my respect if he pulls that one off, but I don't think he will. Moving on to the next game, Burnley versus James's Arsenal. Yeah, look, guys, we've seen a slightly different flavour to Arsenal lately. Arsenal are kind of a defend-first football team. We're seeing lots of set-piece goals and this kind of thing. It's like, you know, they're kind of turning into like a high-octane Stoke City from before. And again, I don't mean that as a criticism. I just mean that in terms of play style. I think Arsenal are capable of scoring nice, well-constructed goals from open play and doing all this kind of stuff. They have the players to do it. But what we're seeing at the moment in terms of their success is set pieces, defend first. And again, I know this is coming from kind of the NFL or maybe even the NBA, but I think it's an NFL saying defense wins championships, right? So if Arsenal can defend first and then are capable in moments of getting the goals they need to do to secure these victories in these games, then why not? Even at Turf Moor, I don't think Burnley are going to have too much of a goal threat against this Arsenal team who are focused on their structure. And again, I can just see them scoring a couple of goals, relatively comfortable. And, you know, Arsenal just keep kind of stacking on these wins. James, a couple more goals in his game, maybe thinking that Burnley will have a bit more of an attacking threat and a simple 3-1. First of all, I don't think we're going to see Burnley draw this game, and I don't think we're going to see Burnley win this game. So it's just how much are Arsenal going to win by? I'm going to say that Arsenal are able to keep a clean sheet and there's not too much of an attacking threat coming the other way. Guys, Fulham versus Villa, this is a really interesting game, actually. And again, you can see James and I a little divided on how we think this is going to go as well. Villa have lost a couple of players recently. We know that I believe it's Kamara now, I think with an ACL injury has been out. Some of their players just not looking as they have looked thus far this season. A couple of injuries in the defence, but then also a couple of guys coming back. I don't think as good as an attacking outlet as somebody like Alex Moreno has been, Luca Digne being back is kind of quite a big deal. And I think that he'll get minutes in some way, shape or form. So does Alex Moreno's role change? Could one of them be shifted over to the other side if Matty Cash isn't playing particularly well? Something to consider as well. Ollie Watkins not hitting form as maybe we'd like to, based on how he has been earlier this season. That combined with, you know, Leon Bailey, Diaby, Zaniolo, there doesn't seem to be too much consistency. Again, this is purely anecdotal, but doesn't seem to be too much consistency in the starting 11 in terms of their dynamism of being able to attack. So Villa in kind of an interesting spot. And Fulham, again, I think they've done enough to get where they wanted to be this year, which is comfortably not being relegated. And then maybe they can look to try and make some smart buys in the transfer market, keeping hold of João Palhinha. Maybe in the summer he can go for a big fee and that can be reinvested in another player of good value as well. I'm going to go with the fact that I think Villa have better quality. I think it'll be a tight game, especially at Craven Cottage. I think it'll be a very tight game. But I'm going to just go with the fact that I think Unai Emery and Villa, there might be a little bit of a going back to basics here. And I just think that if Villa do go back to basics, they have the pieces that will be able to break down this Fulham team, whether that's on the break or whether that's in kind of slow progression and build-up. Does Yuri Tielemans come in and actually play well for this Villa team at some point here? James has gone for the draw. Again, I totally get it. Picking draws at the moment is very, very tricky in this league, and I don't know if I've had a great deal of success doing it. So I might have to think tactically about how I'm doing this here, because every time I pick a draw, I'm like, man, if it comes off, it's really cool. But if it doesn't, I'll feel like a bit of a mug, because it is the least likely result. You know what I mean? Right, Newcastle versus Bournemouth. Again, another really, really interesting matchup. James and I both going for a relatively convincing win. I think this can solely be put down to the fact that, yeah, guys, Newcastle are at home. I think that they're a completely different team when they're at home, which is totally true. The one thing that I would say though that does stick out to me is again just injuries and the fitness of certain players. Alexander Isak being back is great. What do we think about Anthony Gordon's health at the moment? The defence, is that going to be strong enough? Because that's had some holes in it recently. But again, I think with Bournemouth and with Iraola, I don't think, that momentum seems to have stalled a little bit. And especially going to St James's Park, there will probably be a feeling for Newcastle and their fans at the moment looking at the European places, be that Champions League, if they can get a real roll going and some teams around them start underperforming, or whether it's Europa League spots and thinking, we might be missing out here if we don't pick up games like Bournemouth at home and getting victories. These are teams that they should relatively comfortably be beating. I'm going to go with 3-1. I think Bournemouth still have too much of a potential threat, and somebody like Dominic Solanke I can still see doing damage. So I'm going to say 3-1. James going 3-0. I think one of the more comfortable results of the week, Newcastle versus Bournemouth. My old mates at Nottingham Forest, who I have no idea whether they're going to be good, going to be bad, who's going to be playing, the style in which they're going to be playing, obviously constant change, especially recently with the manager being changed as well. I'm going for 1-0 Forest. James going for 2-0 for Forest as well. Again, the home team adds a huge advantage here. But I think the biggest thing that we saw, especially from the demolition that Arsenal gave to West Ham, guys, they miss Lucas Paqueta. Even though I don't think he's the most talented player in the world, they miss somebody like Mikel Antonio. They're missing a couple of these guys that can just kind of string things together quite nicely. The likes of Said Benrahma, right, I believe now has gone. Pablo Fornals, I can't remember if he's still there or not, or if he's left. There's what seems like has happened with West Ham is some of the players that they historically could have kind of relied upon to just come in and do a job, do a role off the bench aren't really there anymore. And the players that they're having to start and they're having to play, it just doesn't seem to be kind of the right fit. And without some of these kind of superstar players, let's call it what it is, Lucas Paqueta could easily be starting for Manchester City. Again, if that deal goes through, I would say he'd have a lot of minutes playing for Man City this season. They just seem to kind of crumble and fall apart. The one thing with Nottingham Forest, there's some very, very scary athletes in there, very fast, very quick players, technically gifted players. Obviously, they need the right guidance. They need the right foundation to build from. The reason why this is a tricky result to pick is because is David Moyes going to get into this West Ham squad, and is a team like Nottingham Forest a team where West Ham can correct the faults that they had against Arsenal and really come out and make a point and put a marker down? Yeah, probably. So we could see a completely different West Ham side. That's why I've gone a little more conservative. I think Forest just pull this one off 1-0. But again, I could see West Ham winning this game. I could see this game being a draw. Really tricky one to pick, especially with the week that West Ham of all teams have had. Tottenham versus Wolves. This was a really easy one for me, I assume. Oh, not so easy for James. Okay. Really easy one for me. Matheus Cunha is a huge, huge loss. And guys, I hate to say it, we're in the middle of February now as well. Certain players, certain agents of players are going to start looking around and going, can I better my financial position here? Can I better my footballing position here? Can I elevate? Can I move on, etc., etc.? Matheus Cunha, as I mentioned, is a huge loss, but somebody like Pedro Neto, some reports coming out recently with links to the likes of Liverpool, so some other teams around Europe that would be very interested in taking a player like Pedro Neto. Guys, the guy is unbelievably talented. When Jota and Neto were both at Wolves, I remember saying, and this is when Neto was a very young player indeed, I remember saying, Diogo Jota is like a nice player, but Pedro Neto is the real deal. He's the one that when you move him to a bigger team, he will explode in terms of his numbers, his contributions, highlights, you name it, value, because he's given the opportunities to do it. I think with his head being turned, with somebody like Cunha, who's been on a real roll as of late, him being injured, there'll probably be a little bit of, not an expectation, but an understanding at Wolves of, we kind of know where we are. We're kind of like mid-table team. I think if we get really hot, we can maybe push for a Conference League or Europa League spot, but especially at the moment, probably not going to happen. Gary O'Neill's done a fantastic job and deserves a hell of a lot of credit, but I can just see this Wolves side maybe starting to phone it in a little bit and just say, okay, we've kind of done what we need to do, and we're looking on to the summer. Some of the players looking on to the Euros, and then maybe their clubs after next summer. Spurs, on the other hand, guys, call it whatever you want. With Son, without Son, with Kane, without Kane, any sort of variation here. I'm really excited. And if I was a Spurs fan for the future, it'd be something I'd be really, really keen to think about and be excited about. I do get little kind of inklings of maybe a Pochettino type Spurs thing going on, where they're kind of fun to watch, kind of fun to root for. The team's kind of, cool and going places. But are they ever, and again, I hate to say this, Spurs fans potentially listening, but are they ever going to have that killer instinct to be able to go the extra mile, go the extra step to win silverware, to truly achieve something in terms of being in the Champions League and being a threat really, really deep into finals, winning finals, all this kind of good stuff? Premier League, do they have the pieces potentially able to win something like that? I would say absolutely yes. They have, Vicario looks good. I think he's a really good goalkeeper. Defensively, it's very impressive. Fullbacks look amazing. The centre-back partnership, especially with Van der Ven and Dragusin coming in as well, partnered with somebody like Coutinho Romero, very, very strong. For the next 5+ years will be good. Midfield looks really, really nice as well. Maybe could do with another addition in there, but still looks very, very good. Attacking threat looked great. I love Dejan Kulusevski. Son's great. Richarlison, Brennan Johnson developing, etc., etc. They have some, Spurs have some serious players. I think for them it's going to be the long term and whether they're going to do it. Anyway, I know it's not about that. It's about this game. They're at home. It's a seemingly mentally, I would imagine, kind of a defeated Wolves side, and I think Tottenham are just going to open up a bit here. Wolves, I can see scoring and being a threat. 4-2 wouldn't be crazy, and James's 3-2 isn't that crazy, but I think it'll be relatively comfortable for Spurs, and I'm going 4-1. Man City's first of their 2 games this week for people in fantasy Premier League land. I'm sure you know what that means. Triple captain territory for City players, or bench boost, or whatever you're going to do. Man City, Chelsea. Guys, Man City at home against a kind of faltering Chelsea team. Villa aren't playing super well, and it was in a cup competition, so I'm not giving that victory for Chelsea too much credit or too much love. Winning against Palace, be it home or away, without Elise, without Eze, with them not at full strength, with them actively trying to replace Roy Hodgson, who again, and I've said this all season, is, reasonably high floor, very low ceiling. You're always going to get that kind of middling ground with Roy Hodgson and with Crystal Palace, to be honest with you. So, I'm not going to give that Chelsea victory too much love as well. Thiago Silva, I think, went off injured, which is potentially a huge loss as well. And guys, it's the same old story with Chelsea. They have the pieces and the talent, and if everything goes swimmingly, we could be looking at a top 4 team for years to come, maybe a Champions winning team, Premier League champion team, maybe at some point here going forward. But things have to be knit together, and the chances of that happening, first of all, this weekend, 0, but also going forward, I would argue are potentially unlikely. Especially the stuff coming out from rumours in the press and all this kind of stuff. All these young, talented players signing these long-term contracts and already potentially losing faith in the project. So, yeah, for me, I think this is going to be a relatively straightforward victory for Manchester City, 3-1. I think that one as well might flatter Chelsea in this situation. Again, maybe a long-range goal, a deflection perhaps, maybe something... a Cole Palmer penalty. Is that the craziest thing in the world? We've seen that before. James going for the 1-0 victory. I can only assume he thinks it might be relatively tight. Maybe Chelsea try and play on the break. City have to try and break them down, and maybe that soaks up a lot of time and a lot of energy. But yeah, the City victory there seems pretty clear to me. Would love to hear James's thoughts as to why he thinks it's only 1-0 though. Sheffield United, Brighton. Guys, look, Sheffield United beat Luton at Luton recently, and I don't know if anybody necessarily expected that to happen, and maybe there's some fight in this team yet. Brighton not playing particularly well. I think it is important to say Brighton overachieved before, so if we're in a position where we're going to start criticising Brighton, maybe we're just back to where they kind of should be and back to kind of the reality in which they kind of occupy. I think it might be a little harsh to really praise somebody for overachieving, and then when they go from overachieving to just achieving what they should be, really kind of beating them to death. Maybe it's their fault for showing them what they're capable of and then them not hitting that. I don't know. But again, similar with Spurs, similar with Liverpool, a lot of teams, when they overachieve, we're then very quick to criticize them when they're not overachieving anymore. And it's like, yeah, guys, you're forgetting the over part of that. They're performing above expectation. If we get back down to kind of an expectation level, let's pump the brakes. De Zerbi doesn't need to go. We don't need to change the entire starting 11 and go again. But Sheffield United, yeah, surprising bit of life left in this team. I think Brighton are a little bit leaky, and I would say, especially at Sheffield United, might be a chance again for Sheffield United to put the ball in the net. But I do think Brighton, their ability to create high quality chances is going to shine through, and they'll just snag it. I want to say, is João Pedro missing as well? I think that's obviously a little bit of a loss. So keep an eye on that game. Might be on upset alert, right? We never know what Sheffield United might do. And again, with this Premier League season the way it is anybody going to be too surprised with Sheffield United stacking wins back to back? Speaking of Luton Town and getting beaten by Sheffield United, Luton Town have got Manchester United coming to town. Just the way that Luton Town have been playing of late, they're kind of playing with the brakes off a little bit and really kind of going for it a little bit more. As much as I do have this as 2-1, this I can see potentially being a high-scoring game. This, to me, though, does have late Manchester United winner written all over it, which seems to have been a habit that they've picked up of late with these kind of late goals for Manchester United. So, again, Manchester United maybe try and take the sting out of the game for a little bit, and then maybe they can calm it down. Maybe they get lucky with a goal. Luton can then come back, and then Manchester United get it late. Again, potentially quite a predictable result here. Guys, I would like to pat myself on the back a little bit here, because James and I talked about this a while ago. Sometimes managers will complain about injuries and you'll go, oh, like, do me a favour, come on. Like, you've still got great players at your disposal. Why can't the backup come in and do an equally good job? They cost X amount, they're being paid X amount, come on. I think with Manchester United, it really is a very thin squad, and the drop off when Casemiro is injured is pretty big, and the drop off when Lisandro Martinez is injured is pretty big, and when Varane is injured is pretty big, and when attackers are injured is pretty big. So with this team fully fit and having Luke Shaw available and Casemiro available and these guys, it is a very different looking team. And I do think, as starting 11s go, Manchester United is the third best starting 11 in this league, behind, you would say, probably City and probably Liverpool, I think. I would honestly, and I know there are probably Arsenal fans listening, and James maybe even listening, going, what the hell are you talking about? Position by position, I think Manchester United might be in a better position for their first 11 than a lot of these other teams. The issue, I think, historically has been that these players haven't been available. They're available now, and we're starting to actually see the results coming through. Again, Luton Town, again, it's another great experience for them. Kenilworth Road, Manchester United are coming. It's a great opportunity to upset the apple cart. Manchester United are capable of beating everybody. They're also capable of losing to everybody as well. So again, another game I would always put on upset alert here, because Luton Town can get hot, can get streaky, the crowd can go crazy, and could potentially upset them here as well. Everton Crystal Palace. Again, we talked a little bit earlier about Palace and how they're doing at the moment. Change of manager, certain players not being available, the late loss to a really poor Chelsea team. I'm going to say that Everton take advantage of that at home. This is still a very motivated football team in Everton. For a good amount of their players, you would imagine there's going to be some that are going to be available to be sold to help with their financial situation. I'm looking at Onana. I'm looking at Braithwaite, who's being linked with absolutely everybody at the moment as well. And again, this Palace side, again, like similarly maybe with Wolves, they've kind of found it in a little bit here. I don't think there's a huge danger of them getting relegated. There's absolutely no danger of them making it to European spots. So we're getting to the stage of the season with, 10, 15 game weeks left. There's still a lot that can happen, but they would have to really perform badly to be relegated and to not be in a good spot, but then perform unbelievably well to do it. And again, like I talked about with Roy Hodgson, this kind of management and with the players they have available to them, they're never really going to overperform or underperform seemingly. Everton with a point to prove that, again, it's a heavily motivated team and a little bit of a swan song maybe for a couple of the players. I think Everton might start stacking a few results on here and making sure that they're clear of relegation as well. 2-0 for me, a draw for James. Again, maybe in the comments, James can put his reasoning for that one because I just don't see it. Guys, we're moving on to the double game week part of this game week. Manchester City, Brentford. Guys, Man City have 2 home games. They played well in Europe and beat Copenhagen. Some players back from injury. Couple players picking up injuries as well. Jack Grealish and, oh my God, I'm forgetting the name. There was another player who got injured, and I can't remember who it was. But yeah, a couple of players coming back, the likes of De Bruyne. Certain things to just look at and think about. I think Erling Haaland, unfortunately, his grandmother passed away, I believe, a few days ago. So I think he's going to have a little bit of time out to go and see his grandmother. But I think the comment off the back of that is does he come back fired up, wanting to do something to tribute to his grandmother, and more importantly, not to say that his mother's mother doesn't matter, but it was his dad's mom as well, and obviously the footballing background behind that. I wonder if he really feels like he needs to make a point and having a tribute to his grandmother. Does that happen, or does he take some time away with his family and just look after things kind of on the home front a little bit? So just a nugget of information, that's all. And obviously, thoughts go out to him. Never nice losing a family member. But yeah, Brentford away from home. I'm going to say that Man City is relatively easy for them. They seem a little leaky, which is why I've given Brentford the 1 goal. Again, Ivan Toney is dangerous. They do have players who can potentially hurt this Man City side, but I think it's just going to be overwhelming for Brentford. So 4 goals past them, and James similarly 3-0. I think relatively convincing. Part 2 of the double game week was Liverpool and Luton Town, and again, guys, Liverpool at Anfield. There's only 1 victory here. 4-0 for James, 3-1 for me. Again, I do think Adebayo might be able to cause some problems. Carlton Morris back might be able to cause some problems. But Liverpool at home, Salah, no Salah, Trent, no Trent. I think this Liverpool team will have more than enough. Klopp in his final season at the club, this is going to be so motivated. Liverpool should be win after win after win at Anfield for the rest of the season. Guys at home, let us know what you think. I'm sorry you've just had to hear me drone on over the last 20 odd minutes or so about this Premier League Game Week 25, because obviously, unfortunately, James is not here. But yeah, drop a like on the video if you like what you've seen. Scroll down if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. We recently got to 1,000 subscribers, which honestly we are so grateful for. We really appreciate. If you'd like to make that number doubled, get us to 2,000 and onwards and upwards, please feel free to do that. James and I would really appreciate it. And guys, until next time, I would say me and James, but just me, I will see you.